và bây giờ thì chúng ta hãy cùng đi sâu hơn vào những insight của thị trường Úc để hiểu được về những cái cơ hội và thách thức mà thị trường này sẽ mang lại cho doanh nghiệp Việt Nam. Để chia sẻ về chủ đề này thì hãy xin chào đón ông John Davies, CEO Hiệp hội Xây dựng Australia. Xin lưu ý rằng là chúng ta sẽ có một phần Q&A vào 30 phút cuối của chương trình với các speaker. Vì vậy nếu quý vị có bất cứ câu hỏi nào cho những khách mời của chúng tôi thì hãy comment ngay, vì chúng tôi sẽ thu thập các câu hỏi của quý vị cho phần sau và sẽ gửi tới cho các khách mời. Ngoài ra thì để có thể hiểu được trọn vẹn hơn những chia sẻ từ ông David, quý vị có thể chọn vào nút bấm chuyển ngữ ở thanh công cụ của Zoom để lắng nghe phần phiên dịch. Còn bây giờ thì xin trân trọng kính mời ông David với phần chia sẻ của mình.
Chào buổi sáng, everyone. John Davis, CEO of Australian Constructors Association here. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about ACA to begin with. This little animation was developed as part of our coming up with our new logo for our association, an association that has been in existence now for over 30 years. This little graphic shows that as an industry association, we cover off on the three main sectors of the construction industry. So horizontal construction, vertical construction, and construction services. Next slide, please. And on this slide, you can see our members. So we only have 18 members as an industry association. But those 18 members construct over 90% of all major infrastructure that's undertaken in Australia. Next slide, please. And we're but one of many industry associations in Australia in terms of the construction industry. We, as I say, represent the larger contractors, and we are almost solely focused on advocating for positive change within the construction industry. But here on this slide, you'll see a number of other industry associations that specialise in other aspects. So we have Consult Australia that looks after designers, Roads Australia if you're more into transport infrastructure, Master Builders if you're into sort of vertical construction and housing and the likes. Next slide, please. And I think you might have received some information about this, but just in terms of a snapshot as to the size of the construction market in Australia. And this is broken down into the major states and territories here in Australia. So what you can see, hopefully, from that diagram is that the major states are, there is 4 major states from a construction volume perspective: New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, which is where I'm coming to you from, speaking to you from, and Western Australia. What might be harder to see is the colours within that, which talk to where the split in transport, where the split in those projects is in terms of the industry sectors. So what you'll see, though, is that a big chunk of all of this work coming up is in relation to energy, but we've also got fairly substantial amounts of work in transport infrastructure as well. Next slide. But we have a number of challenges as an industry, as a construction industry here in Australia. And I thought I'd just talk through some of those challenges, because each and every one of those challenges potentially provides an opportunity, an untapped opportunity to address the challenge. The first challenge that we've got is we've got all of this work to deliver, but we just simply don't have enough people to deliver it. What we can see there is an excerpt from a graph prepared by Infrastructure Australia, a government body that identifies at this, this is towards the end of last year now, we needed 405,000 people to deliver the pipeline of work that we had on at that time. But the red line shows how many people we actually have. So 177,000. So a very significant shortfall in people to deliver the infrastructure that we are being asked to deliver. Next slide, please. So what's the opportunity associated with that? The opportunity is, sorry, if you can go back. Yeah, thanks. The opportunity associated with that is to get far more efficient as an industry. As an industry, I'm apologies, I'm not sure how efficient the construction industry is in Vietnam, but what I can say is the industry here and many other places around the world is not very productive. In fact, it's now less productive than it was 30 years ago. So we have a huge opportunity to get more productive, to do more with the resources we already have. And one of the ways that we can do that is through modern methods of construction, increased use of prefabricated manufactured components, do less on site, more in the factory. And I've noticed someone's already put a question in the chat around prefabrication. This is exactly the opportunity we have. Maybe not the traditional thought around volumetric prefabrication, so construction site offices and the like, but more finished building elements and components as well. Next slide, please. The next problem, the next challenge we've got is cost escalation. We've seen, particularly since the start of the COVID pandemic, the cost of construction materials increasing substantially. You won't be able to see and read any of the detail on that with all of those little dots there on the right-hand side. But actually, that's a survey that we undertake with a big cost consultancy firm, Arcadis, here in Australia, that tracks how much a lot of these construction materials have increased in cost. And what you can see is there's not a lot to the left of that white line, i.e. cost decreases, and a whole lot to the right-hand side of the line, so cost increases. Next slide. So what's the opportunity here? Well, to be quite frank, it's really quite easy there. The opportunity is to find far cheaper materials than we're currently using. And whilst there is a focus here in Australia on utilising local materials wherever possible, ultimately the main driver in most decision making comes down to price. If a product can be shown to be substantially cheaper than another product, the chances are, as long as it meets the quality criteria, that product will be accepted. Next slide, please. And the final challenge that I wanted to talk to you about is a challenge that we're dealing with across the world. It's how do we decarbonize as an economy, as a society? We all recognize the challenge of global warming and the need to do something about that. And here in Australia in particular, it's becoming a far, far greater focus for everyone. Each and every sector of the economy is being asked to do their bit. Next slide, please. So the opportunity in this area are for products with lower embodied carbon. So products that are less energy intensive to construct, low cement concrete would be one, greener concrete would be one, greener steel would be another one. They're both materials, as I'm sure most of you know, that are extremely energy intensive in terms of their production. So any opportunity to find products or to come to the market with products that are less energy intensive, that have less embodied carbon, there is going to be a huge opportunity in the Australian market for those. Next slide, thanks. And just the final slide, just to wrap up on this, that you may be interested in if you have any plans to come to Australia soon. We are holding a big event in Sydney on the 8th of August that is really focused on all of those challenges I've just mentioned. And how, as an industry, can we come together to address those challenges? And we'll have some very senior VIPs from right across the industry talking about those particular challenges. And it's all about having a conversation about how we can do things differently going forward. So I'd love to see you there if you have the opportunity. Thank you very much.